Zimbabwe's issuance of a $100 trillion bill is one of the most striking examples of hyperinflation in modern history. This extraordinary event occurred during the late 2000s as Zimbabwe's economy collapsed under a combination of mismanagement, corruption, and political instability. Causes of hyperinflation in Zimbabwean reform policies. In the early 2000s, the Zimbabwean government, under President Robert Mugabe, implemented a controversial land reform program that forcibly redistributed land from white, commercial farmers to black citizens. While intended to address historical inequities, the program disrupted agricultural productivity, a cornerstone of Zimbabwe's economy. The country experienced severe food shortages and a collapse in export revenue. Economic mismanagement. The government responded to declining revenues by printing more money to finance its expenditures, leading to an oversupply of currency in the economy. This excessive money printing was not backed by economic productivity, devaluing the Zimbabwean dollar. Decline in industrial output, sanctions, corruption, and poor governance further weakened industrial production, leading to decreased GDP and worsening the economic crisis. War expenses and debt. Zimbabwe had significant financial obligations, including costs from its involvement in the Second Congo War and mounting debts. The government printed more money to meet these demands. The escalation of hyperinflation. By the late 2000s, hyperinflation spiraled out of control. Official inflation rates peaked at 79.6 billion% in November 2008. While some independent estimates placed the figure much higher, prices doubled every day, making the Zimbabwean dollar effectively worthless. Citizens required wheelbarrows full of cash to buy basic goods like bread and milk. Introduction of the $100 trillion bill in an attempt to keep up with the devaluation of its currency. The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe began issuing increasingly larger denominations of money. The $100 trillion bill, introduced in January 2009, became the largest note ever printed. Despite its astronomical face value, it could barely buy a loaf of bread at the time. The bill became a symbol of the country's economic collapse and a global example of the dangers of unchecked inflation and poor economic policy. The end of the Zimbabwean dollar. By 2009, the government abandoned its currency entirely, allowing the use of foreign currencies such as the US dollar, South African rand, and Botswana pula to stabilize the economy. The Zimbabwean dollar ceased to be legal tender, effectively ending the hyperinflation crisis. Legacy of the $100 trillion bill. Today, the $100 trillion bill is a collector's item and a stark reminder of the consequences of hyperinflation and economic mismanagement. Zimbabwe eventually introduced a new currency, but confidence in it remains fragile, and economic challenges persist.